I'm Joey Bowman, and this is my daughter, Casey Newsom. She's the brains of the outfit and sort of the one that helps run everything around the farm. My whole family's worked in the deep mines industry, but myself, I've worked at doing the electrical high lines to deep mines and prep plant areas my whole life. That's what I've done until I retired. But my dad always kept livestock around just for eating purposes, but me, I always wanted to have cattle. And going on 12 years ago now, we started our own little herd about 12 years ago, and it's built into this.
They helped you with rotational grazing, which helped you to where you was able to conserve the grass throughout the year. That way you wasn't feeding as much in the wintertime. They helped with soil samples to help you with the fertilizer and the grass seeds and everything to put down on the ground. They helped you with converting from town water to pumping the pond water or whatever, just to give them, to help, on the water bill. We can say too that they brought you so far on the soil samples, figuring out what all they need to do to make the pasture better. On this reclaimed strip job land, the biggest challenge is the rain. If you get too much, you got a lot of runoff. If you get too little, your grass really depletes bad. It's got a little sweet spot of the water it needs before you can run cattle on it good and successful. And they have helped a lot with putting down, telling me by the soil samples what to put down to enriching the soil, help with the cows, and the rotational grazing lets us pick spots to stockpile grass for when we do have downtime on rain. We have a place where we can put our cows, and they still got water through the pond, but it's through a reservoir we installed due to the help of them. With the reservoir, it pumps the water to the watering troughs, which we have a watering trough in each rotational grazing field, which makes it easier for the cows. That way they're not walking 20 to 30 miles just to get to water. It's very convenient. It's right there at them. So before we got approved for the government and the state grants to do the watering systems up here, our cattle was actually drinking from 2 ponds. We had 2 different ponds on the farm. That's the only place that they could get water, and it was really hard when you've got 155 acres for them to just go to that one area just to get water all the time. So they come in and put a watering system in for us, which was extremely hard because with reclaimed property, it was hard for us to dig due to all the heavy rocks and everything. So it was really hard to try to dig down and get as far as what we needed to put the water in line in the ground. When we first started with the watering systems, we were going to use city water, which turned into a lot of money, because when you're watering 100 head of cattle of what we had at that time, it runs up a pretty heavy water bill. So then we were able to put in a reservoir to pump water from our pond into the watering troughs, and we still use the city water as backup. We just did not think a deep well would be sufficient on this property because of the strip job land and the deeper down deep mining that's been done in this area. That's the reason why we went with the pond water instead of trying to drill a well. Since we've started the rotational grazing, our cattle numbers have stayed the same. We got around between 70 and 80 head total. We never started feeding in the barn until late January this year, due to the way our rotational grazing did and the fields that we had stockpiled fescue in. We was able to wait up into January before we started our feed barn process. And the barn was to be installed. We run into some issues with it being on the reclaimed land where there's a lot of big boulders and stuff, just got a skim of dirt over them. The digging of the holes for the poles, luckily I had a line truck to set power poles with and got the hose down, but we had to go extra deep and put extra concrete around the posts where the ground is just refill land. Behind us is one of our sacrifice fields. This is one good thing about rotational grazing. We're able to bounce our cows from pasture to pasture, but now if we do say we have a dry spell and we run out of hay, we can always put our cows on our sacrifice field here to make sure that they've got plenty of grass to eat. But if the weather holds up and we have plenty of grass for our cattle in the rotational grazing areas, we can cut this for hay for the winter time. why we really done the big feed barn is it's an easier way to feed our cattle, but also it is a way to stockpile up the manure. And what helps us with the manure here is we can always take it back out on the fields and spread it out, which helps break down the cost of our fertilizer and lime. And it also puts nutrition back into the soil for our cattle.